So we talked about life in USSR, and again, I mean, I'm going back to this fact that people just don't understand what socialism. Again, I going back again and again, over and over again to the word socialism as opposed to social programs.
Correct.
So let's
Correct.
just talk about the aspects of one and only true socialism,
That is
and that's
correct.
the one that
As
was
we know
in
it. As
USSR,
we know
the one that we experienced. So let's share your
Absolutely.
experience. And your experience and my experience are
Absolutely.
exactly the same. They're identical.
It is interesting. Well, you know what? That basically proves the point that you can achieve equality at the bottom of the social scale, right?
That's
The
right.
difference will be at the top 5%. 95% of the people who lived in a communist country under socialism uh, would have a very, very comparable experience. Let me tell you more. Over the 30 years over 30 plus years living in America, a few times in my life I ran into folks from variety of different countries. Someone who grew up in the communist China, someone definitely who grew up in Cuba, someone who grew up in Eastern Europe, someone who a person of my age who I know he's from former Yugoslavia. It's uncommon how similar our
That's
experiences
an
are.
excellent point.
I open my mouth, I start talking about, I already see ear to ear smile and nodding.
you know,
That's just like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
it's funny. I remember when I was in college, and there were a lot of students that came from the so-called socialist bloc countries. And I never forget the conversation with the Cuban girl. For me, when I lived in the USSR, I thought it's like at the bottom of the food chain, so to speak. It's like the worst place on earth. I assumed in my mind that any other place outside the Soviet borders is a better place. So here we're having a conversation with this Cuban girl, and I'm telling her, and I was a decent girl there. I mean, going back, these things that I was saying was like, gosh, that was crazy, crazy. I would have ended up, behind bars for a long, long time, which caught up with me later on in 1985. But it was back in the early 80s. So I'm talking to this Cuban girl, and I'm complaining. It's like we can't get food. There's scarcity all over the place, and she's telling me that the Soviet Revolution is so much longer than the Cuban Revolution.
Longer
I,
in what way?
well, that it's
Happened earlier?
yeah, it happened
Yeah,
earlier,
yeah,
and I just don't understand what is she trying to say. And maybe only 5 minutes into the conversation, I'm realizing that she's so proud of the achievements of the Soviet Union
Right.
because the
Yeah.
situation is in Cuba was
So
so
much
much
worse.
worse, and she attributed that to the fact that the revolution in the USSR happened much earlier than the
Okay.
Cuban Revolution.
Right,
So,
right.
given sufficient amount of
Right.
time, Cuban people
Yes.
will be living as well as the Soviets were living
Yeah.
at the time.
Interesting.
And I was totally
Interesting.
shocked.
Interesting. That's interesting. It's, that's how it can happen. You know, you can experience the same thing with a person and learn completely different lessons.
Yeah,
That's
but to your point, I mean, it's absolutely stunning
Yeah.
that when people say
Yeah.
that it can be a different socialism,
Yeah.
it's exactly the same
Absolutely.
totalitarian state,
Absolutely.
no matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what is it like living over there?
Well, let's talk maybe a little bit about those common misconceptions and something you brought up recently. I just want to expand on. Uh, free this, free that, free something else. Everything is free, right? First of all, the example I typically give to an average American is if you want to understand what the standard of living in for average Russian person is, imagine yourself making the salary you're making, government taking 95% of it, leaving you 5% of your current salary for expenses, and offering you the rest for free.
Well, it sounds a little bit misleading, I would say, because it's not like you pay taxes. Taxes were minimal over there. It's just they'll value your work at such a low level
Right.
that by default whatever you get is like totally pittance. Everything is taken away without even telling you that it's taxes. It's just by
Right.
default taken away.
Right, right.
And another thing, which all of us know, that the higher I mean, it sounds so crazy, but the higher your education is, the pretty much lower your salary
That is correct.
You know,
Partially, as I understand, partially it was by design, because don't forget the Soviet Union is a workers' state.
Exactly,
right?
paradise.
So they made it by design. They made a specific point that the workers will have higher salary. The workers will have highest rations during the time of calamity, right? So definitely peasantry, workers, and intelligentsia, which is afterthought, right? And partially it's attributed to the government-run planning system, right? In America, in a traditional Western country, the market dictates how many engineers we need, how many doctors we need, how many other professions we need. In the Soviet planning system, they would produce as many engineers as they deem fit, regardless of what market condition is, and now they want to keep them employed. And keep them employed is probably more reflective of what was actually happening. Keep you employed, keep you off the street, keep you out of trouble. You remember that old joke, yeah? We pretend that we work and they pretend that they pay us.
of course.
That's what
And another saying, when they want to say that you are really in the lower rank of a payment scale, you're like a mere engineer.
A mere engineer,
It was like
exactly.
an insult. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a mere engineer.
It's from
How much money are you making? Like an engineer.
like in this, I think it goes back to old Reiken's
That's right.
comedian, yeah, episode, yeah.
Doctors
that-
is the same thing.
that
I mean,
is
it's
correct.
amazing.
Absolutely, because they were not doctors employed in a private free enterprise. They were doctors which were produced by the state,
Yeah.
right? And state decide how many doctors to produce and how much to pay them.
Yeah, also, I don't think that the salaries were so low because of supply and demand, because of the command economy. I don't think that that's the reason. It didn't really matter how many engineers they had, how many doctors they had. It was the first reason that you mentioned, that it was a workers' paradise, and the workers had to be paid more.
Yes, absolutely, and it was.
The steel workers,
How many times? How many times?
the heroes
Absolutely.
that build the USSR,
Absolutely.
and engineers that are sitting over there pushing papers. I mean, in the minds of
That's
this
how it was
proletariat.
viewed. Absolutely. In many ways, it was exactly viewed that way.
Really
But
wonderful talk.
thank you very much, Liz. Good
See
to
ya.
see you.
Nice job, Ilya. As always, it's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
Take
Good
care of
to see you.
yourself. Be
Thank you
well.
for coming.
So, and you were an engineer, right?
Yeah, yes.
So then the question is, why would people want to become, let's say, engineers? Why would they want to go to college when they get paid less?
You are opening a very interesting topic, Vladimir. Okay, so let's look at the alternatives, right? You could work your career through the system and build a successful career in the Communist Party, right? But not everyone would want to choose this route, especially people with certain ethnic backgrounds who couldn't even have the option to choose this route,
Well,
right?
specifically Jewish.
Specifically
There was a
Jewish.
government-sponsored anti-Semitism, and that's the key word: government-sponsored. Are they
State-sponsored,
anti-state sponsored? Are they
Absolutely.
anti-Semites in the society? Of course, just like racist. I mean, it's like
Of course.
mentally sick people. You cannot eliminate that. But the fundamental difference is that anti-Semitism in the USSR was coming from the top-most position, from the general secretary himself. Khrushchev was an anti-Semite. Stalin was an anti-Semite. So it permeated the entire society.
Absolutely.
So for us Jews, it was probably the toughest than for anybody else
In
in the
many
USSR.
ways, absolutely, absolutely. With that, us being under 4% of the country at the time. So that was one route. Another route would be to enter some what we call humanitarian studies or
I didn't want to interrupt you.
I want to talk to you. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes and let you talk to
That's
everybody.
okay, that was great. Thank you so much.
very much.
That was awesome.
Thank you very much.
Good meeting you.
See ya.
Good meeting you.
Same here.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much what you say means to me. Yeah, and from your perspective, I'm so disgusted and scared of what's happening and what's happening to us. And what we're going to do about it, besides pray, which I do every single day, but when people like you confirm every fear I have, it really resonates with me. And I appreciate it so much for taking the time to do it. And stop worrying about being a great speaker. You have a lot of good things to say. You don't have to worry about being a great orator. You know, the effort you put in to summarize that and do it well, it's why I'm pressuring you. Which is good to both of you, But it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I didn't get a chance to talk to Vladimir.
Yeah, we're from the same part of the world, so that's what I'm here for, to sort of share the experience.
Are you from Russia as well?
No, I never lived in Russia. I lived in the USSR. So I always make this distinction. We
Oh,
are
I
from
see. Okay,
we
that
are
makes
from
sense.
USSR.
Right.
Just like Ilya, we are from USSR, which is a completely different country, completely different system than what we.
People can't listen to folks like you and learn. I love your jacket.
Thank you, and we love
I'm
Trump.
encouraged to wear that. Not many people do. What can we do?
Fight back. Absolutely, fight back.
I'm going back to my office, and here's what I'm going to do. I say to myself, what can I do? What can I do? I'm going to take your notes, and I am going to duplicate them and give them to my team, and make sure that they understand. Right, because I talk to them, but then when they have a chance to read it, and it resonates with them, it's going to make a difference. And they have children, and I always tell them, be cautious about what your kids are learning, because they're getting indoctrinated in the wrong way. And maybe, who knows when the Lord will take me. But these kids are going to be around a long time, and they don't want them making up in a society. That's what we do. So, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. Take care of yourselves. Good luck to both of you.
Thanks. We all need it.
I know, we will all need it.
Some people understand, thank God.
Oh yeah, of course.
So,
I mean,
We have to spread the word. Okay.
and
So
it
that-
was a prepared audience. Absolutely, definitely people who came to listen. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So I hope that more people will listen and understand the evils of socialism, because socialism equals evil. There's no other way around. So let's talk about the evil empire. So let's,
Why would you want to be an engineer? You could.
a white
and-
collar worker.
Well, color worker is the work is typically unqualified, or even if it's qualified, it's a hard labor and not very intellectually stimulating, right? So if your sole goal is to pursue a better pay, then that's definitely wrong. But if you want to pursue a career in a white collar field, what are your choices? You can enter college and study liberal arts, what we call here in America liberal arts, right? Here is a problem with that, as I see, and I think that was a problem to many Russians in the Soviet Union, is the following. If you enter this field, you will be constantly exposed to propaganda machine. The only way you really could keep yourself solely or almost solely focused on your job is to choose a technical field and just and be there. That's why I think a Soviet Union had potentially so many good theoretical scientists, is partially because people wanted to pursue a political route where they're not constantly brainwashed and forced to brainwash others.
Well, there's another reason to go college for men. And
Of course.
the
To
reason
avoid
is
the military draft.
exactly the
To
colleges
avoid the
that
military
have
draft.
the equivalency of America's ROTC.
Right, absolutely, yeah. How you explain to average American that the Soviet army, it's not the same thing as American army, right?
It's not easy to survive actually
Yeah.
to come out alive or
Yeah.
come out sane.
Mentally,
It's
it breaks you
very hard.
because the whole purpose is just to mentally break you.
Yeah, haze
So
you.
make
There's
you-
constant
yeah.
hazing and propaganda, of course.
Absolutely.
And for us, just the concept. When I lived over there, I always loved the United States. I always loved the West. And here, you're supposed to go to the army, and you are the enemy of the West.
That's
well,
right.
in fact, I mean, in me, I was the friend of the West.
That's right.
So I didn't
That's
want to be on the other side of the barricade, so to speak.
They put you in a very tough position. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I forgot about it, but that's exactly right.
But let's, also explain, like you explained, touched in your presentation, just daily life. I mean, many people just don't understand how hard it was to live just basic daily,
Well,
doing basic daily things.
absolutely. And one thing, which one misconception, major misconception in America, in America now, is, for example, focus on the wealth gap. And the example which I like to give about the wealth gap is, 1% live so much better than the bottom 20. But that comparison is meaningless, especially applied to Soviet Union. Why? Because the example which I would give is this. The difference with someone who drives Maybach and somebody who drives Toyota Corolla is minuscule compared to someone who drives Toyota Corolla and someone who stands on a bus stop in minus 30 degrees Celsius at 6 in the morning waiting for a bus that probably broke down and will never come. So that difference is absolutely infinite. And it's really hard for most Americans to experience and understand how much it is not a theoretical exercise, but actual way of life for Russians to live through these harsh conditions and travel, and practically nobody in Soviet Union had cars.
Speaking of
Very few.
travel, it just reminds me one thing.